What's up, hockey fans, and welcome back to the Good Goal Podcast. This is episode 26. I am Christian Brady. I'm coming to you from Foxborough, Massachusetts. That's Matt Tiart from Fishersville, Virginia. I got it this time.
Yep.
And we're here to talk all things hockey because we haven't in a long time. But it's December 30th. It's almost the end of the year, and we have a plan for hockey next year. Matt, how you feeling about that?
I'm pumped. As soon as they even announced that they had an idea of a season, I texted you right away. And I'm just glad that my final semester at Clemson, I graduate in May, tears, is going to be literally filled with hockey. I mean,
yeah,
I think there's only, like I said in our conversation yesterday, I think there's only 3 days between now and May 8th, which is the end of the regular season, where there's only one game. The rest has like 11, 10 games.
Right.
So,
and who's to say those days won't fill? So, who knows? I don't know if you hope for COVID cases so that you never have to miss a day of hockey, but
yeah. I mean, with everything moving around, that date might be pushed back, or so we'll see. But it's exciting.
All right. Okay. Well, why don't we go into the plan in depth? NHL in 2021. So training camps for non-playoff teams will open tomorrow, Thursday, December 31st. And all those playoff teams, including the play-in team, they will open their training camps on Sunday, January 3rd. So we're really getting there. And most players, I'm sure, have already arrived on scene, and they'll have official practices starting this week. The NHLPA and NHL agreed on a 56-game season, which will begin on January 13th. And those 56 games will be played in division with new division lines drawn. And each team will play each other team in their division 8 or more times, depending on the division and the team. And then 4 from each division will make the playoffs. They'll crown a division champion who advances to the semifinals. And this creates a lot of back-to-backs. It creates a lot of rivalries, I imagine. So it's going to make for a super fun year.
Yeah, and we get to see, and we're going to go through every team in each division here in a sec, but we get to see potentially old rivalries show up again, and also rivalries that have kind of died down come back up because you have to play 8 times. And with only 4 teams in each division making the playoffs, no wild cards, no weird point scoring with games in hand, I imagine. You play your 56, whoever has the most points, whoever has the top 4 points gets in. So some of the rivalries are going to get chippy, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and with there only being 56 games, every single game is more important. And a lot of back-to-backs where team will go into a city, play 2 games, and then leave. So you can get 4-point swings within a division in a year where the best team's only going to get like 80 points. Yeah. That's going to mean a lot. Every weekend is going to be extremely important.
Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, if you get 80 points in this season, you deserve to make the playoffs because that's, I mean, at face value, that's 40-16. That's an unbelievable record.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. And I think these back-to-backs, it's going to be interesting to see how coaches strategize for those, especially with goalie situations, players, COVID, how many skaters they're allowed and things like that. Because as we've mentioned before and we're mentioning now, having a good backup goalie is so important. And this season now more than ever, because goalies 1As and 1Bs, like you usually say, on a back-to-back is important already. But when you're trying to make the playoffs, you're at game 48 and you have a Friday, Saturday game. Teams like Vegas that have Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Lehner are going to succeed at a much higher rate than other teams that only have 1 star goalie. So
yeah, it puts a huge premium on that, as if there weren't already one, like you said.
Yeah.
So why don't we get into the divisions, Matt? I'll start with the North, the Canadian division.
# we are the North.
All 7 Canadian teams, that's right, are in this division. I'll rattle them off. Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's
go ahead.
It's crazy because Canada's on the come up, which is weird to say because they invented the sport. But every team you rattled off, other than Ottawa, and we've already trashed them enough, so we don't have to. We can stay away from that.
Yeah.
Every team has a chance to win that division. So.
Oh yeah, and like you mentioned, we get the Battle of Alberta 9 times, which I think we got it 4 times last season, and it was the best thing ever.
Yeah, we
had
goalies fighting at center ice last season. So
yeah, exactly, and then those goalies switched teams.
Yeah.
But you have other stories out of this division: Vancouver, Ottawa, all teams that have new goalies coming into this season. Even Montreal picked up Jake Allen in the offseason as their backup, or hopefully their 1A if things work out for them. Winnipeg has, to stick on the goaltending, Winnipeg is the defending Vezina champion. So it should be a stingy league for goals. It'll be exciting to watch that. But
finally, Connor Hellebuyck gets some respect. But
I know.
Yeah, Vancouver. I'm gonna start crying. We're talking about Holtby. Toronto, we've trashed them enough as well. Their top line is worth $400 million, and they score 3 goals a year. And then Montreal. Our biggest thing with Montreal is the strain that is put on Carey Price when he has to play 60 games. There's not even 60 games in this entire season. So that's my biggest question with this entire division is if Carey Price only has to play max 35 games, he's going to be ready to go for the playoffs, and that's a scary thing if they get in.
Yeah. Can Jake Allen return to Blues backup / starter Jake Allen and take off a load on Carey Price? And if Montreal can be successful with Jake Allen in the net, I think it bodes so well for them in the playoffs.
Yep.
But who knows? There are a lot of good teams in that division. So I think that's a division that has gotten significantly harder with the redrawn, especially since 3 teams from each division of 8 made it before, and now 4 teams are making it from 7 here. It makes that so much crazier to say, but there are so many good teams in this division. It's hard to pick 4 right now, even though you're only picking from 7.
I think because hockey is a Canadian sport, and I think this is an all-Canadian team, the pressure is amplified by 1,000. If you're not one of the 4 teams that makes it in to the playoffs from this division, to me, you're letting your country down. This is a chance to defend your country that came up with this sport.
I was just going to say, every time a Canadian team plays each other, they make it Hockey Night in Canada. So is every game going to be on TSN this year?
Every night is Hockey Night in Canada this season.
So that'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait to tune into some of those games because, who knows? Stylistically, it could be different. That's something we haven't talked about yet. With teams literally only playing each other, the styles of each division could drastically change depending on, what teams are setting the pace. And, if one team is extra physical and forces every other team to sort of catch up with them physicality-wise, they could go into the playoffs and do the semifinals playing a league that was not physical at all and played all skill. And then we have a complete clashing of styles that, who knows, we've never seen anything like that. So I think the game in each division could drastically change over the course of the year.
That's a good point, especially with teams having to play McDavid and now the reigning Hart Trophy winner, Leon Draisaitl, 9 times in a season. They're going to be tired. They're going to have to be physical. And another aspect of you saying teams changing their games, their style of play is fatigue. That, they're playing less games, but if they're not used to a certain style of play going into the playoffs, they're going to have to try to change again to win a 7-game series. So
they're only moving back the start of the playoffs by 20 or so days. And so that would mean by January 20th, since they're starting, or whatever, we'll say January 30th, they would typically have 56 games left to play. There's no way, or 50 games, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
In a normal season, they don't pack nearly this many games into this amount of time. So it's not like they're just taking
and
a
out of the
different.
All-Star break, it kind of, I mean, the amount of games slow down because the intensity of the games go up.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's move on to the East. You want to rattle off the East for us, Matt?
yeah, I'll go ahead. The Boston Bruins, the Buffalo Sabres, the New Jersey Devils, both New York teams, Islanders and Rangers, Philadelphia Flyers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Washington Capitals. So if you are an avid Good Goal podcast fan, you heard right. The Bruins and the Capitals are in the same division, and they will be playing 8 times this year. And I graduate, I think, May 7th. The end of the regular season is May 8th, which means Christian and I will get all 8 Bruins Capitals games together.
Right.
So
They usually play 3 times, and it's always a big deal to us. So now it's 8 times.
But good times.
Just to get into this division, Matt, at first glance, this has to be the toughest one to win or to get into the playoffs, because there are so many playoff teams in this division.
Well, we're going to preview this season next week, but I do want to kind of scratch the surface of, I agree with you. Every team other than the Devils, could probably win this division. Pittsburgh's always dangerous. Capitals with a new coach and the greatest goal scorer of all time. The Bruins being the President's Trophy winner coming off last season. The Sabres, young, healthy. Taylor Hall. The Islanders with Barry Trotz always have a shot. And then, of course, the Rangers, who were so hot to end the season, got the number 1 draft pick, somehow still making the playoffs. I mean, it's going to be great. The Flyers, number 1 seed in the playoffs. Coming
people
out
are
of the
saying
bubble.
that kid Lafreniere is going to make an impact immediately. That's how good he looks in preseason camp. So that should be so much fun. I don't know if you've ever seen the highlights of him in the Swedish league. I think he played in, but it looks like there are no other hockey players on the ice. Like, he's the only one who could physically skate. And that's not a knock on the league. That's just how easy he makes it look. He's an unbelievable player, and he's huge. I think he's going to be a generational talent. And you can always tell when that's going to happen when up to the draft, there's a lot of hype about a guy in the NHL, because typically the NHL draft gets absolutely zero attention. But everybody knew who the first pick was going to be, and it was Alexis Lafreniere. So, and he's a winger, by the way, and we thought he was a defenseman, but he's a winger. But he made his ways this time last year in the World Juniors, where he was the best player in the league or in the tournament. So he is, I think, going to be a big piece of that team, and I can't wait to watch him.
Yeah, it's hard to – I mean, so 4 out of the 8 make it, but I'm having trouble picking who's going to win the division. So, like, amplify that by 4, who's in? Yeah. And especially game 51, 52, you're playing the same team for the 8th time. I mean, I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
I know.
Oh, also, shout out to Zach. He bought me Screaming Eagle hat with the Screaming Eagle retro jersey that I'm not wearing.
Best Caps logo ever.
My dad doesn't like it, but
not even close. Not even close. All right, let's talk about the Central. This is the division that has both Stanley Cup finalists. We'll start with Carolina, Columbus, Dallas, Detroit, Chicago, Florida, Nashville, and Tampa. Usually, the Cup finalists play 1 time the year after they play, and it always gets a ton of hype. We just talked about this with Canada. Now these teams play 8 times. There's going to be a legit rivalry formed between the Cup finalists from 2020. I think that's going to make for a super interesting dynamic.
I hope Dallas beats them 8 times.
Yeah, me too.
Well, what's awesome is Tampa. I don't know if they're raising the banner or not because fans won't be there. Like the Lakers didn't raise their banner; they want to wait. But it is their ceremonial. We won the Cup, first home game, and they're playing Chicago, who beat them in 2015 to win the Cup. So that's kind of interesting as maybe a little payback. Hockey players typically have a a good memory when it comes to things like that. So
Yeah, this is like the Canadian division in that there's a lot of mixing between divisions and even conferences. So it's a lot of teams that don't see a lot of each other. The East, I mean, obviously they're all in the East, and a lot of them are in the Atlantic. So those teams see a lot of each other already. But in the Canadian division and the Central division, there's a lot of intermingling. So these teams, again, play different styles. They usually only see each other once a year, if they see each other at all. So there's a lot of matchups in here that will be basically the first time we've seen them in like an expanded sample size.
yeah, it's also weird to see, like, I guess technically this is the Western Conference. It's weird to see a team in Florida in the Western Conference. Like,
Oh yeah,
that's the East Coast.
yeah, definitely that is weird. All right, we'll parlay right into the West. This is Anaheim, Arizona, Colorado, LA, Minnesota, San Jose, St. Louis, and Vegas. This is another good one.
No offense to the other four teams, but right off the bat, I'm already going to tell you who's making the playoffs. I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here because in 5 months, everyone's going to be like, you remember when you said? But on record, Arizona, Colorado, St. Louis, Vegas. Because from what I've seen last year, they are far and away better than every other team in this division. So,
yeah, I agree with you. I don't want to put the kiss of death on it, so I'm not going to do the same thing and predict that all four of those teams are going to make it. But top to bottom, this has four great teams at the top and then four teams who were not very good last year. So it could, I don't even want to say this, but I think this is the weakest division depth-wise. But I take it back already because I don't want anyone to hold me to it.
Christian loves St. Louis, and especially last year to start the season, he said St. Louis will lead the league or lead their division for one day. And I think they led every day but one all season.
You know what? They almost got swept out of the playoffs, so that wasn't the most wrong thing I've ever said on this podcast.
All right. I'm excited. I'm excited to preview it. I'm excited for hockey because it's so weird that it's almost January and we don't have hockey. Like it's weird for my brain to wrap around that in 2 days it'll be the new year and we don't have the Winter Classic.
Yeah, that is sad. They were talking about starting the season outdoors, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But for a while, that was the only rumor we heard about this season, was that in the middle of January, the first game was going to be on a pond in Alberta. And just imagine the Battle of Alberta outside, no fans, just literally boards dropped in the middle of a lake in Alberta, frozen solid. I can't even imagine how cool that would have been, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
I say do it for one game anyway.
Yeah, I say it do. I don't care when you do it. Do it in May. Have them fall through the ice. I don't even know how cold it is in Alberta. Maybe they wouldn't.
So, as you said, the start of the season, January 13th. So, some other important dates. The trade deadline is April 12th, which is only 4 weeks before the season ends. So, that's going to be interesting. Trade deadline, I think, is going to probably be I'm going to use the same words I used for the free agency. It's going to be the Wild West because you're going to know exactly where you're at, like after every game, just because there's so much going on. And so the end of the regular season is May 8th. Obviously, these can change because of Rona. Hopefully, fingers crossed, by May 8th, we have everyone's vaccinated and we're back to normal, but I'm being optimistic.
Hopefully we can get some fans.
Yeah. Last possible day of playoffs, July 15th. So the Stanley Cup Finals extended into July, which I'm not mad about.
No, I'm okay with that.
Expansion draft for Seattle.
Yeah.
July 21st. So we get to see Christian and I, as well as all the other hockey fans, get to see Seattle poach their favorite players. The NHL draft is July 23rd and 24th, and then the start of free agency is July 28th. So a packed July of Stanley Cup Finals, expansion draft, NHL draft, free agency, all within 2 weeks of each other. So once hockey's over, the fun continues for another 2 weeks. So
I think the plan is now to get onto a normal schedule for next season, which would be great.
So we get,
even though I like watching hockey in the summer, Matt, but that'll be okay.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to get back to normal because, like I said, it's so weird that we don't get a Winter Classic, or it's like December 20, whatever it is, 30th, and we haven't had hockey for months. Like,
I know. It is crazy.
Although it was fun to see college football and hockey like on at the same time this year. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we would have got the Winter Classic and the semifinals in the same day this year.
We would have.
That's a missed opportunity.
By the way, go Tigers. I hope we beat Ohio State by 90.
Me too. Pretenders. The number 11th team in Davos County School. Unbelievable.
It's so disrespectful.
So petty. Anyways, let's move on to some news. A couple downers here. Henrik Lundqvist is having open heart surgery. He's getting a valve replaced in his heart, I think this week. We learned a couple weeks ago that he was opting out of the season for a heart condition, but we only learned a couple days ago that he actually had to have open heart surgery on that condition. So thoughts and prayers to him. This is not about hockey. This is about getting better for his family. So we hope everything goes well and he's back on his feet soon.
Yeah, it stinks from a professional standpoint because we kind of banked on him to be like our mentor for Samsonov. But like you said, it's bigger than hockey. Obviously, we need him to be here for an ambassador for the sport as well as a husband and father to his wife and kids. So we hope all goes well. We're not even really worried about him returning to hockey, like I said, as much as we are just being there. So prayers to him and his family, and we hope he makes has a successful surgery. Yeah,
definitely. Not in other medical news, Jonathan Toews has no timeline. He's announcing he's missing camp and most of the season at least. He announced he has what sounds like an undiagnosed condition that has him fatigued and lethargic. He said he's staying in Chicago with his doctors to find, while his doctors work on finding out what his condition is. But as of now, he has no timeline. Stan Bowman also came out with a statement that said, we're here to support Jonathan throughout this whole time, and we're not going to rush him back. So this sounds like a very serious thing. I hope he's okay. And it's another thing where you just hope this doesn't affect him after his career.
Yeah. When I first saw this, I thought it was like he had COVID and then like these are lingering symptoms. That's what I first thought. But like you said, I think it has something to do with some condition that the doctors are trying to figure out. So hopefully it's like something that they can slowly figure out and work on. This sucks because he's such a awesome person for this sport, winning 3 cups. I mean, he was the face of the sport for several years.
Yeah.
And after the mini bubble season he had, I mean, he carried Chicago past the number 5 seed Oilers. So prayers with him because we want him back. We want him to play hockey. He's fun to watch. So.
Yep. Okay. Corey Perry has signed a 1-year, $750,000 deal with Montreal. That's veteran minimum. We said we were surprised he didn't get a little more attention, but he definitely adds a more physical vibe to this Montreal team. He can still put up some goals. He had a pretty good year last year in Dallas before he got suspended and had to do the walk of shame at the Winter Classic.
Oh, God. He had to walk like half a mile off the ice.
I know. And to hear him talk about that is hilarious, too. He was like, it was just as long, if not longer, as it seemed to you guys. He was like, I felt like that run was never going to end. But anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. I think he adds something to this team. Obviously, it's a good deal for both of them if he's willing to take that minimum. That just means he will do anything to stay in the league, and Montreal doesn't have to give up a lot to get him. So I hope it works out. I talked about this with you yesterday, Matt. I've been trained as a Bruins fan to hate Montreal. And I think my fellow Bruins fans might forsake me for saying this, but once they got Claude Julien and they started losing and then they started getting a little bit better, I didn't have that hatred for Montreal as I always did. I have it for other teams now. And now that they're not even in our division, I don't really know how I'm going to handle my relationship with the Canadiens. I don't know if I cheer for them because of my childhood coach, Claude Julien, and the rest of their team, which I tend to like as people. And of course, Carey Price is one of the best goalies of all time and has nothing to show for it. So I don't know. I'm just going to let it happen organically and see how I behave with the Montreal Canadiens this year. But I really have no reason to hate them other than my dad and all other Bruins fans telling me I
have to. Well, my first thought when you said they signed him was, oh man, small, quick guy. He could probably play really well in the PK, but he leads the league in penalty minutes every year just because he's such a, I don't even know what the word is. So if he's not in the box, then he can help out on the PK. I mean, if it's veteran minimum, why not? If no one signed him. So, I mean, he's going to probably put up at least 10 goals. He's going to be a guy that creates chances and is physical after the whistle. And that's kind of my thoughts is why not?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Okay, we have a new offside rule that goes into effect this season and in the future. The blue line will now be considered a plane extending upwards instead of a two-dimensional line on the ice. So what that means is a player's skate can be above, but not across the blue line, and a play will still be considered onside. What do you think? I like it. I don't think it's enough because I hate reviewing offsides, and we talked about this at length so many times. We need to stop.
In a shortened season, the Bruins are probably going to have 6 goals called back because of offside. So you're going to hear plenty of ranting this season. My dad likes to call Christian the offsides Nazi because Christian's just so about offside. I don't even know he's just so.
I don't like when they call back goals for offside.
Yeah. Anyway, the plane extending upwards. I'm gonna go into my 2D, 3D theory. We live in a 3-dimensional world, and the fact that offsides has been 2D, it's just a line on the ice. You have to think 3-dimensional. You have to think plane extending upwards. Soccer does it with the goal line. College wrestling does it with the ring on the mat, that if your foot is inside the ring, it's a plane extending upwards. This should have been done years ago.
So football operates on a plane.
Because
this is how the world works.
If the football crosses the goal line of the plane, your argument is it has to be a plane because the puck most of the time goes in the net. It's not crossing the ice.
Yeah.
It's not breaking the line physically.
Right.
And that's a perfect argument. I mean, we live in a 3-dimensional world. So.
And it's a 3-dimensional sport. So that's how it has to go.
There you go.
Yeah, we both like it. I don't think they should eradicate offsides. I think we should put more trust in our linesmen to make the right call and maybe not review it, or maybe you have to review it in real time. Or the best solution, I think, to me, is you get 30 seconds to review it. And if you can't come up with anything, then you got to leave and you keep the call as is. But
you can't eradicate offsides because Sidney Crosby would have 700 goals because all he does is camp at the blue line. So.
Well, you'd think, yeah, right. You'd think that would increase goals, but I really don't think it would. I think one defenseman would stay in his own zone the entire game.
Well, then it's 4-on-4.
Yeah, that's what I think it would be.
No. Anyways, I do agree with the review limit. Because isn't
Yeah.
isn't football doing that? There's a certain amount of time
Some
until
some college football conferences are doing it.
good.
The ACC is not one of them.
20 minutes on a touchdown review is a little much. Like,
Yeah, I think that definitely in all sports there should be a review limit, because if you're not coming up with anything in that point, then it didn't change the game enough,
I also
especially
think
with offside.
it's 2020 and we have 8K cameras. Like, we can tell that. So, like, looking back and zooming in and looking at different angles for 20 minutes isn't going to do anything.
Yeah, you think they're playing like cards in the review booth or something? Because
They
it
have
takes
to
them
be.
way longer than it should. Okay,
They're
let's
calling
talk about the World
Toronto and
Junior.
they're like smoking cigars, like playing. Oh, you gotta.
Yeah. They're playing poker. Okay, the World Junior Championships are happening right now. Team USA is 2-1. They lost their first game 5-3 to Russia. One of them was an empty net goal, but that doesn't obviously matter for goal differential. Every goal counts the same. Then they won 11-0 over Austria. Austria's a joke. But their biggest win of the tournament comes against Czech Republic, who just beat Russia 2-0. And the U.S. smoked them 7-0 yesterday at 11 or 12 p.m. local time, 2 here. So they got Sweden on deck next tomorrow, December 31st at 9:30. That'll be a great game. But great showing against Czech Republic. Very encouraging for me as a fan. I thought they looked amazing against them. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, we struggled against Russia, and I think Spencer Knight, who's the goalie for Team USA, he had to change something, because back-to-back shutouts. I mean, Austria is not anything special. No offense to Austria. I think my brother Zach pulled up the stat you were talking about, and in 2 games they've been outshot 138-16. So yeah, I mean, when you only face 6 shots all game, but the shutout against Czech Republic is pretty special because they beat Russia, who beat us. So I'm a big fan of Spencer Knight. I'm a big fan of this team, and I think we're really going to see what we're made of against Sweden, because if we can beat them, then it's on against Canada, hopefully into the medal round. So
yep, Sweden is the best team in our group so far. I think it's Group A. Canada is in Group B. Austria, this is their first year in the tournament in a while. Denmark got relegated, and Austria joined the fray. And there's no relegation this year because of COVID, so we're gonna have to suffer through Austria losses next year too. And
you're
then
saying we're gonna have to suffer when we won 11-0.
I
Austrians have to suffer another year.
I mean, it was painful watching an 11-0 win over Austria. It was actually sad. Just watching, there were 6 shots on net, and they all came in the first period, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I do want to point out that Canada is, to me, by far the best team. They beat Germany 16-2.
And Germany is no slouch either. They beat Slovakia, who Canada only beat 3-1.
And they had
a lot of shots.
Yeah, they beat Slovakia. Yeah, I was about to say they took them to overtime, but they beat them. Well, the stat that I saw that was crazy about that game is Canada had more draft picks than Germany had skaters. And we've talked about this. It's a little weird that the reigning Hart Trophy winner is German, yet they don't have enough skaters to compete with Canada. You would think that if the best player in the world voted on is Leon Draisaitl, that they would, maybe be like, oh, we should try to get more people into this sport.
Maybe it's like a bunch of 12-year-olds have decided to play because of Draisaitl, and in 6 years they'll have a great World Juniors team. That's what I'm guessing.
Okay, hopefully. Although they won the World Cup in soccer, so they don't have to be good at hockey.
Until they stink at soccer again, they can stick with that. All right, Matt, that's all I got for today.
That's all I got. Well, so weekly.
Yep, we're back to weekly.
Coming back next week. Go ahead.
Yeah, next week we got a preview. We got a recap of the 2020 bubble the pre-COVID hockey season as much as there was. And then we'll get right into the next season. We're going to preview each division, who we think is going to make the playoffs. We'll start our predictions now. We'll date ourselves probably immediately. Like first game, our Stanley Cup champion that we pick is going to get beat 15-0, and they're going to quit the season.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Because we don't know how to pick things.
And then the week after that, hockey's back. So
yep, and we'll have a lot to talk about. So we're excited to be back on schedule. We love talking hockey. So thank everybody for listening. We'll see you next week.
peace.
See ya.